Quiet night at the office. No phone calls, no messages, nothing but junk mail and overdue bills to keep me company. Seems nobody wants to hire a real private dick anymore, a professional like me. A guy who does the detective work nobody else wants to do. A guy who wears hats and walks around in a black and white world. I began contemplating a more profitable line of work, like politics.
We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to you.
All right, folks, good afternoon and welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN, or Radio Central. From the center of the dial, the center of information, in the center of New England, we are Radio Central, AM 830 WCRN. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and you can join the conversation for the next hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. That will get you into the studio for two-way talk and conversation. Ted A behind the glass playing the board today. Thank you, Ted. He'll get you all set up at that number. And, of course, our text line is also up and running at 617-297-8388. And it's a screen in the studio. Your text appears in real time. We try to work it into the conversation. And, of course, we stream on the TuneIn app 24/7. Thousands of radio stations do. But it's a very easy way to take us anywhere. We're very portable. You can load us on your device, phone, tablet, laptop, whatever. I love it. It keeps the continuity getting in and out of the car. I also stream the show. I am streaming today back on track here. So you can also go to my social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, X, and so forth, at Joe Mangi, M-A-N-G-I, Joe Mangi Show, LinkedIn profile, Twitch TV, and on the Rumble channel. We're streaming live there as well. 508-871-7000 to get into the conversation. Interesting couple days. Christine Ohm out there with the flak jacket director, or secretary rather, of Homeland Security. It's something. So I think that was obviously a photo op and so forth. But here we are. We're going to bring you some common sense conversation for the common sense citizen. And we do have a packed show today. So relax and let's get to it. We're starting today with the tale of kind of two Americas, one of resilience and truth-seeking, and the other of chaos, excuses, and what seems to be continued erosion of trust of leadership. From Putin's recent claim that the 2020 election was stolen from Donald Trump, right, to fresh questions about Dr. Fauci's handling of the COVID pandemic. There's a lot to unpack here. And I got to say, Trump's move yesterday, we were on the air and when it unfolded, and the guy basically brought Colombia to its knees between holes while playing golf. Absolutely. That B upside the head slap. Look, tariffs is a perfect example. He's using the economy and tariffs and things of that nature as tools and weapons. 25%, 50% by Friday, canceling, right, all of the visas, kicking everybody from Colombia out of the country, and the guy sending the presidential plane. But one of the biggest headlines today, I got to tell you this, Vladimir Putin declaring that the 2020 U.S. election was, quote, stolen, unquote. Now, we don't need Putin to tell us something that millions of Americans have not just suspected, but pretty much knew in our gut. But let's take a moment to unpack some of this. Putin claims that if Trump had remained in office, we might not have the war in Ukraine today. Trump has claimed that. I have said that repeatedly times on this show. If Trump was in a consecutive second term, Iran would have come to the table. They were waiting the election out. And Biden won, air quotes again, won, and they became very wealthy as a nation. And Putin went from surviving to $1 billion a day in revenue because of the pipeline that Joe Biden let happen. So that's very interesting. Putin claims that if Trump remained in office, we wouldn't have the war in Ukraine. I agree. Trump says it too. And so it might be debatable. I don't think so. But what's not debatable is the disastrous state of global affairs under the Biden administration. Biden's foreign policy has been nothing short of reactive, stumbling from crisis to crisis. And as we've come to learn, he wasn't even aware. They controlled the access to him, and they controlled or edited, I guess, what he was given for information. We're now finding out from secretaries and cabinet members they didn't see him. That if they tried to reach the president, their direct boss, they would get an angry call from chief of staff and then a call from Biden apologizing for it. It's crazy. Biden's foreign policy has been nothing short of just a cluster. That's all. And now we're expected to believe the man who can barely form a coherent sentence is capable of standing up to authoritarian regimes.
Oh, sure.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, remember, when he traveled overseas, they changed dining times to accommodate him, and he still blew half of them off because he was taking a nap or it was too late for him. It was too much in one day. Trump, on the other hand, has Putin's respect. Now, I know everybody gets crazy on the left. If Donald Trump says something like Kim Jong-un is intelligent or Xi Jinping or Putin, oh, no, you can make an observation. And quite frankly, you don't get to run a country if you don't have those countries anyway. If you don't have something on the ball, of course they're intelligent men. They might be evil men, but they're intelligent. Well, Putin's paying a compliment to Trump that he does respect Trump. Whether the left wants to admit it or not, he kept the peace through strength, not appeasement, not apology tours. Yet here we are almost 5 years later cleaning up Biden's mess, wondering what might have been. And speaking of cleaning up messes, let's talk about Fauci. This morning on Fox and Friends, Senator John Kennedy, guys, I like that guy, pulled no punches. He flat out said Fauci tried to cover it all up. We're talking about gain of function research funding, folks. Money that may have gone to the Wuhan lab where the virus is likely leaked. And interesting how Biden gives Fauci, who wasn't even really on anyone's radar screen for a pardon, because they haven't been charged with anything. We don't particularly like him in a lot of ways. But it's a retroactive back to what year? 2014. The year that Obama banned gain of function. And NIH started funding research at the Wuhan lab. You put the pieces together, and it'll start to make a lot of sense. And what did Fauci do when the walls started closing in? According to Kennedy, he doubled down, tightened his grip, and tried to control every aspect of our lives, right? Masks, lockdowns, vaccine mandates. Remember the audio of him in that on the call saying, hey, if you make it hard for everybody, you can't go to work and you can't travel and all of this, and they'll put their principles right out the window, saying if we make it difficult enough, their BS principles are gone. That's kind of evil, guys. He even pressured the military to mandate vaccines for 18-year-old recruits who are probably in better shapes of their lives, for Christ's sakes, like they did with the athletes. World-class athletes saying you got to put this experimental jab into you. And it's not even a vaccine. They put the label, I should say. They put the label vaccine on it so that we would digest it. But by definition and true sense of what a vaccine, it's RHNI. It's not NA, rather. It's not an actual vaccine. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for science. And I don't go along with Fauci saying to criticize him is to criticize science because he is science. Yikes. But when science becomes a political weapon, it's no longer about saving lives. It's about saving careers, reputations, and yes, covering up inconvenient truths. Fauci was the master of the COVID universe. Kennedy said that. But what he really mastered was the art of evasion here. And where are we? The CIA just released a low confidence assessment saying the virus years later now, folks, saying the virus likely had a research-related origin. Translation, they're telling us, yeah, maybe it came from the lab, but don't quote us on it. The lab with the same name as the virus. But they still want to tell you it has to do with a bat and soup in a wet market. Folks, this is why trust in public health is plummeted. It's why people are skeptical about what they're told. And honestly, can you blame them? Businesses closed, lives were upended, and we're not now only beginning to see the full economic and social fallout of Fauci's policies. Not to mention the students that are years behind and that missed out on all that. And we knew that the people in danger were preconditioned people, obese people, people with diseases, elderly, healthy 18-year-olds did not have to go through this kind of lockdown. But wait, there's more. Just this morning, we learned that Sean Duffy has been confirmed as the new transportation secretary. Yes, the former congressman and Fox News contributor is stepping into Pete Buttigieg's old role. And let me tell you, he's got his work cut out for him. There's a lot of stuff going on there. And they're losing. I think it's 13 or I don't know the number. Don't hold me the number. A lot of Fox people have been tapped for different positions in the government. America's infrastructure bill is reeling from years of neglect, and we all remember those transportation nightmares under Mayor Pete, right? Remember when it took him weeks to respond to a supply chain crisis that left grocery store shelves empty, or when he went AWOL during a potential rail strike? I mean, the guy was practically MIA half the time. Duffy, however, is a man of action. He understands the struggles of everyday Americans. He's not just another talking head. He's a guy who knows what it means to roll up his sleeves and get the job done. So before we move on to your calls and lines, they're open. 508-871-7000, 508-871-7000. And we'll go to the phones when we come back, reminding you that we are streaming on the TuneIn app. And, of course, you can also watch this show, the Joe Mangiacotti Show, on social media, Joe Mangi Show, MANGI, on Facebook, X, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, and Rumble TV. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Our text line is up and running at 617-297-8388. When we come back, we'll go to the phones. Mark is waiting patiently. Mark, your first call up on the other side of the break. We'll be back in 2 and 10, folks.
Looking for guidance as you face a future on Social Security? It's hard to figure out on your own. But MedicareAdvisors.com is a completely independent insurance agency specializing in Medicare insurance planning. We work with the top insurance companies so we can offer our clients the best coverage for them. We design plans with a focus on low costs, which we combine with personalized insurance advice aimed at helping our clients make better informed decisions. Russ Swallow is a certified senior advisor and a licensed insurance advisor. He's been helping clients with their health insurance needs since 1970. And after a failed attempt at retirement, he created the Medicare Advisors in 2014. Russ concluded that since Medicare is health insurance, he might as well put his almost 50 years of health insurance experience to good use, as 75,000 people reach age 65 in Massachusetts every year, and they can use some help. Call Russ today at 508-831-0805. Put his years of personal experience to work for you as you try to unravel the complexities of Social Security.
Perner Logging and Land Clearing, fully equipped with state-of-the-art equipment to handle all of your lot and land clearing needs, whether it's 1 acre or 100. They regularly service customers in the local area and will travel to neighboring communities and beyond to get the job done. Now, whether you're doing new construction, renovations, or clearing land for a new development, the Perner Logging and Land Clearing team of experienced personnel makes small or large jobs run efficiently, giving them the ability to always keep the competitive edge. They'll quote your job from something small to hundreds of acres, factoring in all aspects, including the wood salvage value, if any. In addition, they have the right equipment for each size job, making for the most efficient job site possible. For every job, Perner Logging and Land Clearing make sure the client's goals are the main objective. Call Perner Logging and Land Clearing today for a free estimate, 978-270-9916. That's 978-270-9916.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second segment of the Tuesday afternoon edition here of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. You can join the conversation for the remainder of the hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. As a matter of fact, let's go to the phones. Mark has been waiting patiently. Hey, Mark, what say you?
What say I? The Trump administration just did the American people a great big favor, and probably 90% of the adult public know nothing about it or hardly anything about it. You know what that big favor was?
What is it?
The World Health Organization is no longer part of our American healthcare system. He's given them the door.
Good.
The World Health Organization. Now, I'll tell you why why this was a big deal. We were, under the previous administration, about to sign an agreement,
a treaty, actually.
with a treaty. Well, that has to be ratified by the 2/3 of the Senate. So they will probably go with the international agreement, rather than the treaty, because it could be problematic getting the votes, the 2/3 votes necessary to make it a treaty. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So they were probably more likely going to go with an international agreement,
Right.
okay, which is the same as a treaty.
Right. But tell people what it would have done, Mark.
What it would have done was that the World Health Organization could declare for any reason a national emergency in the United States, and they could close down whatever the black they wanted to close down, basically. And now that's all out the window. In other words,
Yep.
The World Health Organization would be controlling the internal affairs of the United States,
Totally ignoring our sovereignty. Mark.
anonymously.
Yeah. Well, ignoring our sovereignty. Right. If that had gone through, they could have declared exactly a pandemic or a medical emergency. They could have dictated how we handle it, what gets shut down, that we have to take certain vaccinations. It would have been left to them, to a foreign nation and country, to do this. Thank you for the call, Mark. And that, folks, thank God, not to mention the fact that basically the WHO is being run by China, and China, whose population is far greater than ours, yet we were paying 10 times the amount to the WHO than China was paying it. So we're paying the lion's share of the budget to the World Health Organization. China's actually controlling it and putting in the heads of it, and controlling the policies they have. And their population is far greater than our, I think, what are they, 2 billion? Something like that. They're a huge population compared to our, I don't know, where we're supposed to be 800 million or something. But look, good riddance, and that's done, and it should be done. Thank you for the call and pointing that out. And that is a very great. Ted, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I just want to remind everybody that the World Health Organization, established in the early 70s, stated that the biggest problem the world has is overpopulation, and they were determined to find ways to reduce
population
through the reproductive systems. So they were the first to call on abortion for everyone. They were the first to call on euthanasia. They were the first to call on the construct of vaccine.
Yeah. And I mean, Bill Gates has tipped the hand on that a couple times. I don't know if it was by accident or he wanted to say it because he's so arrogant about it. But there is a school of thought out there that our population on the planet now, not a country, should be 500 million. That the planet, we should only have 500 million people on the planet. There is a movement for that. And you can't do that through attrition here, right? You can't get it so that more of us are dying each day than being born, because, well, for the obvious fact, birth rates have declined. And then you got to ask, why are birth rates declined, Ted?
It's really only just like the Green New Deal. It's only been the Western world, the United States, that has participated in these reductions and this effort to reduce world population. China has gone crazy.
Well, China had the
India's gone
one-child
crazy.
policy for a while, and they regret that now because their birth rates have dropped. And now China is actually encouraging their citizens to multiply. But because their population was exploding at such a rate, they went to the one-child policy for a while. And there are horrible stories out of China about families whose child was female, that they, with that
there's
word,
also
no nice
stories
way
that-
of saying it, that they terminated it even after birth so that they could have a son.
There's lots of stories coming out of the Chinese theater and the Asian countries that this was all a boondoggle. This was all public relations. Yes, there were incidences that were put on display, but
What are you talking about? The birth rate?
about the birth rates have gone through the roof in Asia
Now.
and before, during the 70s, 80s.
Well,
and
during
90s.
the one child thing you're talking about. Yeah.
That was again.
That was the original. I mean, that was their official policy at one time, was the one child per family thing. But you're also going to remember, folks, during the COVID years here, during the pandemic, well, we were doing the lockdowns. When we thought it was barbaric what was doing here, they had welded people into their apartment buildings. I mean, and I mean, welded the doors, and the doors shut in the windows so that you couldn't escape the building. And Chinese citizens died in fires because the fire department couldn't unweld the door or get to them fast enough, and they certainly couldn't get out of the buildings. So there was, China takes some drastic measures. I know they tried to keep the whole Uyghurs thing under wraps and all that, but the point being, excellent move by the Trump administration. He had done it in his first. He had cut back the funding in the first administration, and Biden not only returned it, but boosted up. And it should be out of there. And we have to start questioning a lot of things that we've always kind of taken, because the infrastructure that we live in the mainstream media is treated things that we're supposed to have confidence and faith in. But I think a lot of us has realized that a lot of what we've been led to believe or hope that we believe isn't really what the case is. Like the World Health Organization may not necessarily be the best thing for our health. As Ted was saying, I mean, they're of the school of thought that we're overpopulated on the planet. I mean, even look at the MAA, right? American Medical Association. People think, oh, AMA said this, AMA said that. Do you know the AMA was begun as a union for doctors? Because in the 1800s, in the early 1900s, it's very common to have the homeopathic doctors and the mainstream doctors. And the mainstream doctors, anybody could call themselves a healer, right? And they were losing money. They weren't able to make enough money because there were homeopathic type of healers
Got
out
to get
there.
your market share.
Exactly. So they formed the American Medical Association as a union of doctors to start regulating everything. So you needed prescriptions, and that you were kind of forced to have to go see these licensed doctors and be treated in Western medicine. And they didn't want people to be able to go to a local healer or a homeopath. And we look at it today, and we look at Eastern medicine, and we look at the countries that still use natural healing and herbs and natural treatments that are effective. But if we look at a lot of what we use in Western medicine, I mean, aspirin's the bark of a tree, but it's regulated. But in the old days, it was. So the AMA started out as an association, a union of doctors, if you will, to try to control their market share, their ability to earn money. It isn't some great and noble group of doctors whose mission it is to provide the best information for treatment and health that they can. No, it was to control the business side of the medical industry.
Limit competition.
And that exactly was to eliminate the competition in the natural healers, the homeopathic methods. So we've got to, you got to keep an eye on this. And we can talk, I'll tie this in to this issue with Putin claiming that the 2020 U.S. presidential election was, quote, stolen, aligning himself with Trump's, assertions of this. And Putin praised Trump as smart and suggested that Trump remain in office. The Ukraine war might not have occurred. I agree with that. I think common sense dictates that, because we were operating from a position of strength, more so than under Biden, of course. And I think this second term, and I even hear some people on the left now and Democrats actually making this observation that they made a while ago. We might have been better off with the gap year, or I should say the gap term. This might end up being better for the country that Trump had the 4-year break. Now, we had to suffer, and we have to deal with that. There was, back in December of 23, I think there was 11,000 counted of illegals coming over in one day. And yesterday was a couple hundred or something. So we had to suffer this. And Trump, and I've said this before, and I'm hearing people parroting this, that the 4 years under Biden, Trump has been planning this. And just look at the attitude of him coming back. Even look at Melania's attitude coming back. Look at her 2017 inauguration dress, and look how she dressed last week. And she's going to live in Washington. And Trump has been thinking about and putting these people in place. And this is the fastest I can remember cabinets being formed and people being picked. And he knew what he was going to do, man, when he was coming in. Hey, we have to take our mid-show break here on the Tuesday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830, WCRN, 508-871-7000, 508-871-7000. Join us on the other side of the break. Back in 2 and 10, folks.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and here's the latest Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN. Afternoon temperatures will range from the upper 20s to the lower 30s, and although it's going to be brighter, it is going to feel a little more like winter as we've got dropping temperatures and quite a bit of wind still with us. Tonight, between midnight and 5 a.m., we're looking at about 1 to 3 inches of snow accumulation on the ground, something you'll have to plan on cleaning up when you wake up tomorrow morning. Tomorrow, we'll have a couple more patchy showers in the afternoon. I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and you can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive weekdays on AM 830 WCRN.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central 830 WCRN.
Looking for guidance as you face a future on Social Security? It's hard to figure out on your own. The MedicareAdvisors.com is a completely independent insurance agency specializing in Medicare insurance planning. We work with the top insurance companies so we can offer our clients the best coverage for them. We design plans with a focus on low costs, which we combine with personalized insurance advice aimed at helping our clients make better informed decisions. Russ Swallow is a certified senior advisor and a licensed insurance advisor. He's been helping clients with their health insurance needs since 1970. And after a failed attempt at retirement, he created the Medicare Advisors in 2014. Russ concluded that since Medicare is health insurance, he might as well put his almost 50 years of health insurance experience to good use, as 75,000 people reach age 65 in Massachusetts every year, and they can use some help. Call Russ today at 508-831-0805. Put his years of personal experience to work for you as you try to unravel the complexities of Social Security.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the Tuesday afternoon edition here of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Let's go right back to the phones before I continue on. Ken's been waiting patiently. Hey, Ken, what say you?
Good afternoon, Joe. I dare say in the last couple of days we have many things to celebrate.
Yes.
With the mastery of the president and the vice president.
Yeah, JD Vance did a very good job too. Was it CBS? What was he on?
Yeah,
when they got about the eggs prices and that crapola. Yeah.
Oh, there was a part that was even better, but I like to start with the big man and the masterful handling of Colombia.
Yes.
And this has Stephen Miller hands all over it. Not to say that the guy at the top obviously masters the issues, and boy does he know how and when to negotiate. But I'm sure Stephen Miller did a lot of research as to what weapons they could use. A brush up start, and sure enough, the fire.
Well, Ken, isn't this? I mean, what he used, right? 25% graduated if you don't come in line with the next number of days, and then diplomatically with the revocation of visas, and we're going to kick everybody out of the country. I mean, it wasn't drastic. It was very simple. Okay, you don't want to have this type of diplomatic relationship with the United States, and you taking back your elite citizens. And in the president's issue was they were shackled and so forth, and we shouldn't treat people. They were not only are they criminals because they broke into the country, but they're the bad and the worst of the worst that we're sending back. So the president of Colombia violated the political norm first by rejecting to take back his dirtbags, as Kristi Noem referred to someone yesterday. Okay, so Trump fought him on diplomatic terms, the tariffs and the revocation of visas. I think it was brilliant and it was simple, Ken. Ted wanted to jump in?
Yeah, it's substance versus bluster again.
Yeah. Yeah. And the best part about this, Ken, he did this all between a few holes while playing golf. He got the news on the fourth hole, and it was solved on the seventh.
That's my point, is they had their tools on the ready.
Yeah.
Miller gave them a call. Okay, they've done this, they've done that. All right, then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that. We figured they would, and then the dude plan B, plan C.
Well, don't forget that something similar happened in the first term that, of course, the media wouldn't talk about, mainstream media wouldn't talk about it, and that was the same thing. They wouldn't take back their citizens. And I think it was Venezuela who parked planes on the runway. And Trump asked his people, how much do we give this country in aid? $800 million. He said, really? Well, let them know that they're not going to get another dime. All aid from the United States is ceased. And again, within a couple hours, misunderstanding, Mr. President. Sorry, but total misunderstanding. The planes are being moved, the runway's clear, bring them all back. So not only was it $800 million and Trump pulled the funding till they took back those people, but do you know their funding went up to $5 billion now under the Biden administration? Crazy.
I don't know if that's the case, because while you may be citing things I'm not familiar with, Steve Bannon yesterday was saying that we don't really have all that much leverage over Venezuela compared to the other countries because they're pretty rogue.
Maybe I have the countries confused, but I'll research it. But there was a country we were given $800 billion to. They weren't going to take it. They blocked the runway. He pulled the funding, and then Biden jumped. It might have been, maybe it was Colombia too. I will go look at the show notes.
There's many others that are Venezuela is very unique, and the interesting thing of Bannon's story is he's saying, okay, we are capturing Venezuela criminals, and we're sending them to El Salvador because El Salvador is willing to take them, and we're paying El Salvador to do that, and we know that they're going to be good at holding them because the El Salvador government isn't what it was back 25, 30 years ago. It's actually probably the best in Central America from our terms.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to get to vice president because I thought you were referring to the Margaret Brennan Face the Nation show, which I would never watch live, but when they get caught being, when the hosts get egg in the face over and over again, we get to see the clips. And
which when they do this, right, and they get played on Fox, people like her, like when Greg Gutfeld shows some, The View or somebody, right, they're getting more views being on Fox being made fun of than they do on their show.
And I heard somebody comment that, oh man, they're not going to invite him back after that. And it's like, no, you guys don't get it.
Exactly.
They think it's wonderful that among their friends. They give all the eyes and and their friends say, "Oh, you were so right in what you were telling us."
Yeah, you're fighting the good fight.
They have no idea what the truth is, and that they're looking like idiots in front of 90% of the public.
Yeah,
that's the world they live in. And the real hit that Vance did on her was concerning Afghan refugees, because she was.
Tell me about this, because I didn't see the clip on that part.
You have to check it out. So she was insisting they've been vetted.
Okay.
Like the one that led to 2 murders. It's like, I'm looking out for my kids and the public. Who are you looking out after?
You know something, Ken. You see these people who are, when they ask these things, it's like they really believe it. Like how do they not get this? And they're supposed to be journalists. Do they not have any natural curiosity or to question anything? But when you see them say things to them, because of this whole COVID, the CIA coming out and everything, they played a clip the other day when, remember, Jon Stewart, he went on, I'm going to get the right talk show host, the one with the glasses. Come on. Help me. It doesn't matter really, right? They're all the same.
Right.
But he was, they're saying, and he said, it came from the Wuhan lab, and the host is saying, well, do you have any evidence of that? And it's like, seriously. And that's when Jon Stewart does his little shtick about, well, maybe the name of the disease being the same name as the lab that is right over there might have something to, and that's when he got into this whole chocolate goodness breaking out in Percy, Pennsylvania.
I got the answer for you. You're talking about Colbert.
Oh, Colbert. Thank you. Yeah, it was Colbert. Yeah. But do they actually believe that crap? Like, do they honestly believe that this stuff, when they ask these questions, it's like when you try to talk about the 2020 election, and they swallow that he got 83 million votes or whatever it is. Like, nothing fits from the 30,000 point of view on the 2020 election. Ted, did you have
the Jon Stewart clip when he was challenged?
Yeah, play that. It's funny because it's like, wow, guy. Go ahead.
Do you mean like there's a chance that this was created in a lab? There's an investigation.
A chance?
Well,
oh my
if
God.
there was evidence, I'd love to hear it.
There's a novel respiratory coronavirus overtaking Wuhan, China. What do we do? Oh, you know who we could ask? The Wuhan novel respiratory coronavirus lab. The disease is the same name as the lab.
Yeah, see what I'm saying?
Do
you have any evidence? I'd love to hear the evidence. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. You're regurgitating the talking points that you've gotten from on high up.
What do you expect from Colbert, who had dancing vaccine shots?
Exactly. Right. That was the one with they came out looking like syringes, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. So there's Brennan, she got on to him about that. I think I did hear something about the vetting of that, because there was no vetting of that. And
so I would suggest Ted dig that one up. It is precious.
Yeah.
It's just as good as the one he just provided on the vaccine or on COVID.
Yeah.
As good. In fact, the video of it is even better because her eyes and the way she reacts and the way he has the answers as soon as it comes out of her mouth.
Well, because they're so predictable, right? I mean, a guy smart as Vance, he can see the question coming because he does what most of us do, and certainly what a lot of us in this business, the talk show business, we go look at what is it that they're saying on MSNBC, CNN, right? All you got to do is watch it a few minutes, and you get what their arguments and their point of view and what their talking points are going to be. So because none of these, Margaret Brenner, and none of them are independent thinkers that are going to question anything. They're not journalists. And I'm going to borrow from Howie, our afternoon guy. They're Democratic operatives with press credentials. That's really what it comes down to, man.
Vance is unique like nobody else. And, Trump is unique in his way, too. But Vance came from very humble beginnings in his life. I mean, most people would be horrified to have to live a youth that he had. And yet he's brilliant and got the 2 degrees from, actually mixed up, but he's got an Ivy League degree.
Yale.
IQ through the roof.
Yeah.
And so he can just, on behalf of we common citizens, destroy the media.
And the other part of this, Ken, is his wife, and she's not. If Vance was a Democrat and he had a wife who is Hindu, an Indian, right? We'd hear all about the first Indian, second lady, Hindu, first Hindu, second lady. You know what I'm saying? They'd be making a big deal out of it, but they're basically ignoring that because it's Vance, it's a Trump's VP, it's a Republican, yada, yada, the drill.
All I got to say is winning, winning, winning.
That's it.
And at a pace I couldn't have imagined.
Oh, yeah, and I don't think it's going to let up anytime soon, folks. I think this because he knows he's got the House for now. He's got the House and the Senate. He's got a half decent court. He's got 2 years to make it by midterms, Ken, that nobody's going to say we want to go back to that. So, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. We're against the clock here, folks. But I think he understands that he's got to do as much as he can in the first 2 years of this term. Then the second part, and when he joked, I know I'm against the clock, but when he joked about his third term the other night, I could hear the heads popping on the left in D.C. when he said, I don't know, can I run for a third term? Maybe I'll do that. Of course he can. Anyway, folks, stick with us. We'll be back for the fourth and final in 2 in 10.
Looking for guidance as you face a future on Social Security? It's hard to figure out on your own. But MedicareAdvisors.com is a completely independent insurance agency specializing in Medicare insurance planning. We work with the top insurance companies so we can offer our clients the best coverage for them. We design plans with a focus on low costs, which we combine with personalized insurance advice aimed at helping our clients make better informed decisions. Russ Swallow is a certified senior advisor and a licensed insurance advisor. He's been helping clients with their health insurance needs since 1970. And after a failed attempt at retirement, he created the Medicare Advisors in 2014. Russ concluded that since Medicare is health insurance, he might as well put his almost 50 years of health insurance experience to good use, as 75,000 people reach age 65 in Massachusetts every year, and they can use some help. Call Russ today at 508-831-0805. Put his years of personal experience to work for you as you try to unravel the complexities of Social Security.
Ready to simplify your financial journey and secure your future? Phil Gallant of Wealth and Wisdom 65 provides the expert advice and clear, actionable insights you'll need to thrive in retirement. From financial planning and investment strategies to long-term care solutions, he and his team will guide you every step of the way. Imagine a retirement where you're free to pursue your passions and confident in your financial decisions. It's time to simplify the complexities of finance. Build your wealth and wisdom. Visit wealthandwisdom65.com today. A prosperous future starts with the right guidance. It's not just your retirement, it's your life. Visit wealthandwisdom65.com.
Advisory services offered by Optimus Wealth Management Group, Incorporated. Insurance services offered by the Optimus Group, LLC, an affiliated company. The information contained herein should in no way be construed or interpreted as a solicitation to sell or offer to sell advisory services or insurance products to any residents of any state other than the state of Massachusetts or where otherwise legally permitted.
Bowler Park is the place to play, so treat yourself to a private suite at the best ballpark in AAA. Suite rentals are the best way to enjoy a fully catered and climate-controlled experience at the park. Whether you choose to watch the game from inside of the suite or out in your seats, it's the ultimate experience for a special occasion. Visit WooSox.com or call 508-500-8888 to reserve your suite today.
All right, folks, welcome back for the fourth and final segment of the Tuesday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. You can do that for the remainder of the hour. 2 o'clock, Frankie Boyer comes along, but you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. So I think this is pretty interesting, the Putin story, and I don't want to beat it to death here, but the irony of Putin, right, accused of manipulating Russian elections, if you remember, which was, I always thought in the 2016 election, was asinine because the last person Putin wanted in the presidency was Donald Trump. He wanted Hillary Clinton, in my opinion, because she was part of the whole yick and swamp, and he understood that she is motivated by money and that he could arrange. Trump made a reference the other day, and while he was signing the executive orders about that, referencing Biden and so forth. And he said, they can't get to me with money. I don't need any money. I got all the money I need. So the irony of Putin being accused of manipulating elections, and now he's commenting on U.S. election integrity. There's a little irony to this.
Takes one to know one.
Well, it does. I mean, I question the integrity of many elections outside of this country, and I do question the integrity of the 2020 on sheer fact that by definition of the laws that were changed by secretaries of states and governors, there was something wrong with the election. Stick with me on this because yelling at the radio or whatever. If elections, the rules of how the state ran its elections were changed, and they weren't changed by the state legislature, the moment they extended the mail-in ballots for 8 days, 9 days after the election date, the moment they said, we'll take mail-in ballots without postmarks, why would you do that? Obviously, if there's no postmark, it did not go through the United States postal system. So where did it come from? Do you understand? The things that they did in that election, some of these states, by definition, there was something wrong with the 2020 election, period. And even if it did go Trump's way, the fact that they changed election laws in states means that the integrity of the 2020 elections at question, period. And now we're seeing some cases dealing with election fraud in 2020 getting to court because standings being established, meaning the ability to take this and that they're an affected party. And then you've got the strategic implications of Putin praising Trump as smart and businesslike, and how this aligns with Trump's calls for, of course, diplomacy and peace negotiations. So you have Trump on record of saying that Putin's a smart guy and having a certain amount of respect for Putin, maybe not how he operates, but for him, and Putin showing respect for Trump. Now, challenge me if you think that Putin had respect for Biden. I feel he had zero respect for Biden. I think he knew exactly what Biden was and what was going on in this country, and that's why he pulled the stuff he pulled under the Biden administration. But you're not going to get Putin to have a serious discussion about bringing an end to the Ukrainian war with someone like Biden in office. So at least we're ahead on that front. Now, Trump's claim that he could end the Ukraine war in 24 hours and his proposed sanctions on Russia it plays a big role because the feasibility of such negotiations, whether they could shift the current dynamics of the conflict, because you've got tough economic conditions in Russia right now. They have economic struggles. The effects of sanctions, inflation, labor shortages on the Russian economy, it's troubling Putin. Reports of Putin concern over the war's economic toll, its potential impact on his domestic support. The Russian economy is in the crapper right now, and domestic support is lessening. Not to mention the oligarchs aren't big on it either. So Putin has a lot of motivation to get to the end of this. The potential role of the U.S. in brokeraging peace talks, including, well, nuclear disarmament discussions. And Trump was headed there. Trump was headed there in first term. In the expiration of key nuclear arms treaties and the challenge of involving nations like China, France, and of course UK in these new agreements. And China is catching up. China was always behind in the number of nukes. They have spent the last several years really, really developing war machines, their military, and building battleships and aircraft carriers, drastically outnumbering the United States now. Ukraine's insistence on territorial sovereignty and security guarantees from Western allies, that's what kicked a lot of this off, folks. Because back in the day with NATO, it was understood NATO wasn't going to expand and get any closer to Russia's front door. And when Joe Biden kind of casually made a comment about them joining NATO, that put Putin in a very difficult position because it would be abutting his country, and NATO wasn't supposed to get that close to Russia. That was the agreement back in the day. So that indication. Say again.
Ukraine.
What was that? I didn't catch that, Ted.
I said that Ukraine would never be approached.
Exactly.
By NATO.
That was the understanding. That was the status quo for years. And then Biden saying, "Oh, yeah, Ukraine should join NATO," and that triggered it. Oh, that just triggered it. How Kyiv's counteroffensive efforts shaped the possibility of a peace deal. That also is playing a role here. So the global implications of Putin's comments on our elections and Trump's diplomatic approach, it's coming at the right time. I think Putin wants an escape route. He needs a way out. He's got to save some face, sure, but he's losing domestic support. His economy's in the crapper. So how could this narrative, it could influence American politics, particularly now that we're into the Trump administration, and Trump says he's going to end it. Now, I never thought he speaks. You know how Trump speaks, hyperbole. You know, he's not going to end it in 24 hours. Eggs aren't going to go back down to $3 a dozen overnight either. But like J.D. Vance pulled off with Brennan, I mean, he looked at her like, do you have any idea how this works? Reverse engineer it. How did the price of eggs go up? And by the way, we got another factor, right? Yes, we're talking about energy, the cost of energy, what it costs to ship the eggs, what it costs for the farmers to maintain farms, keep the chickens alive, produce the eggs. That goes for milk, that goes for wheat, goes for everything else. That's why those prices are going up. Then we had trillions of dollars being printed. But now Biden ordered, I don't know how many millions of chickens to be slaughtered because of the bird flu. So production there is going down. Also, there's been cattle. Millions of cattle have been slaughtered in the last 4 years, by the way. So we see this effort to try to control the farming. Bill Gates, why is Bill Gates buying up all these farms, by the way? He's one of the largest farm owners in the country. And then we have regulations coming in, which I think will be reversed because we've got new people running the EPA and DEA and EPA and Food and FDA, Food Drug Administration, and all that. Under the Biden administration, even Obama's administration, there are a lot of rules. And remember, this is a pet peeve of mine with these bureaucrats. They issue these policies and rules. They're not elected. They're not representative of us. But the things that these agencies come up with have the effect of law, but we didn't get to vote for it. And there were a lot of regulations making it actually, in their eyes, illegal for us to grow our own food or to have self-sustaining homes. They don't want us to be able to grow our own food, much less create our own water sources. I don't know, folks. We'll see what happens. There's going to be a lot of changes. Sean Duffy, I think that we're against the clock here, but the ones that we got to watch is Tulsi Gabbard, and I think RFK those are going to be tough ones. I think Tulsi's on the bubble more than anyone. For some reason, the Democrats really have a problem with her. I think Kash Patel is going to get in. There's a lot of opposition for different reasons with Tulsi Gabbard and RFK. In the end, I think RFK will pull it. I'm not confident on Tulsi Gabbard yet. I mean, Kamala put her on that Blue Skies watch list. She couldn't fly for a couple of years. And she was a Democratic congresswoman and a Democratic presidential candidate. I think she's a colonel in the reserves. She was a fighter pilot, but she's on Blue Skies watch list. And this all is coming from Hillary Clinton being afraid of her politically as possible competition and throwing out an accusation that she's a Russian spy. We don't have the time to take your call on that, but follow me on social media. Text joemshow@gmail.com. What? Where did that come from? Another Russian spy. I'm sick of that stuff. Wraps up the Tuesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show at AM 830 WCRN. Frankie Boyer is next, folks, so stay tuned for that. Always great health information. Speaking of health and choices and Medical Association and World Health Organization, do it holistically. Frankie will tell you how to do that. All right, folks. I'll be back Peter Blute will be sitting in for me tomorrow. Joe out.